Assalamualaikum, my name is Mohamad Syazwan Aniq. To begin with, the language and brain team explores how our brain store, process, and retrieve language. According to Frontier for Young Mind, Bird of Shafto 2014, different areas of the brain are responsible for different parts of language, like producing speech, understanding words, and remembering names. Language is not stored in one place. For example, vocal areas help us speak fluently, while Wernicke's area help us understand the meaning. These brain regions work together like part of a team to let us speak and think its language. What is the tip of the tongue phenomenon, or TOT? According to Cherry 2023, TOT phenomenon, also known as lithological, refer to a temporary inability to retrieve a known word, often triggered by visual, auditory, or tactile cues. Despite knowing the word, the individual struggles to access it, though they may recall partial information such as its sound, meaning, number of syllables, or initial letters. This transition retrieval failed to highlight the complexity of language processing, where even familiar words can momentarily escape recall. Commonly occurring with low-frequency words, TOT movements may increase with age and are considered an early sign of cognitive aging. One of the examples is during a presentation. You want to use a specific term like photosynthesis and you understand the concept, but the word doesn't come out immediately, or you are saying another word like photosynthetic instead of photosynthesis. What is the relation between the tip of the tongue phenomenon with language and brain? According to Research Kit 2023, language is a complex cognitive function deeply rooted in the human brain, particularly in the ability to understand and produce language, both spoken and written. The brain processes language through these distinct areas in the left hemisphere, including broadcast area, which is speech production, and Wernicke's area, language comprehension, are heavily involved in language processing. The TOT phenomenon show a clear relationship between language and the brain by highlighting how our brain process, store, and retrieve words. For example, language storage. The brain stores language in different areas. Meaning of word, which is semantic, are stored in one part like the temporal lobe, while how words are sound, which is phonology, is stored in another. Next is the retrieval process. During speech, the brain retrieves word by first assessing meaning, then linking it to the correct sound. In TOT movements, the brain accesses the meaning but struggles to retrieve the sound part. Then the last one, the interference. The brain may incorrectly retrieve a similar sounding or related words due to the way language is organized in memory. I will show you the real world example.
Hey y'all, I'm getting ready to eat some mock. Hold on. I'm getting ready to eat the mock. I'm getting ready to eat chips and mock. Hold on. I'm getting ready to eat chips and what? Hold on.
In the TikTok video, the woman is trying to record the word guacamole, but she struggles and pauses, clearly knowing what it is yet unable to say it. This is the example of the tip of the tongue phenomenon. She understands what the food is, how it tastes, and what it made of, showing she has access to the semantic memory. However, she can quickly retrieve the phonological from the exact sound or pronunciation of the word. This moment demonstrates how the brain can partially activate a word that you know but cannot say it, which happens because the link between the meaning and the word sound disrupted. This support the neuro-linguistic view that language is stored in separate components in the brain, one for meaning and one for sound. The disconnection between those two causes of the tip of the tongue tip. Eventually, she either record it herself or someone prompt her.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Atif Atiqi bin Hadzuan. Today I'm going to share with you about tongue sleep. What is tongue sleep? Tongue sleep is one of the concepts under language and the brain that has been defined by Rasha Ali 2025 as a type of speech error that deviates normal sequence of segments intended with utterances. Furthermore, Sam Ali 2030 also defined tongue sleep as a normal speech error that are not related to any speech disorder. There are three types of sleep. The first one is preservation, second anticipation, the last one is exchange. This speech error usually occurs in our daily communication that makes people laugh because it sounds funny, silly, and surprisingly. In addition, most of the speakers do not notice the error until they hear the error by themselves, and most of them also do not notice the error at all. Moving on to relation between tongue slip, and brain and language. To begin with, tongue slip are errors that happen during the planning phase in our brain whereby it also includes speech production process and complex planning at Broca. Thus, this slip can range from simple phonetic error like switching sound in word to lexical complex error like using wrong word. Moreover, this error happen due to unconscious process that the brain undertake to formulate and articulate language at Broca and motor cortex. Tongue slip is not just a random mistake. It is help neurolinguistics to gain valuable insight into the functioning of the language in the system of the brain. Here is my real life word example.
A policeman isn't there to create disorder. The policeman is there to preserve disorder.
Based on the video that I have shown to you guys, the person name is Richard M. Daly, who as mayor in Chicago was interviewed on the television. He was unconsciously experienced tongue of slip during the interview by saying the sentence, "A policeman is there to preserve disorder." The word preserve is substitute for word prevent. This mispronunciation lead to the confusing for audience to understand the sentence said by Richard. This error affected by the complex planning of word in our brain, and according to Nozaria 2018, brain cognitive process play a crucial part in our ability to produce fluent and free error language. Failure in this process may lead to the mispronunciation. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Puteri Nuha Syaurah, Ismas Binti Ismas, Isurifazly, and I'm from section 730. My content is about broadcast aphasia under the theme of language and the brain. So first, we're going to talk about the definition of broadcast aphasia. So, what is broadcast aphasia? Broadcast aphasia, also known as expressive aphasia, is a language disorder that primarily affects the ability to produce speech, and they have problems in expressing themselves. Some symptoms to indicate broadcast aphasia is the amount of speech reduced, distorted articulation, and slow, often effortful speech. These people have a hard time in saying the lexical morphemes, which is mostly the nouns, verbs, and adjectives. They also lack in speaking grammatical forms or agrammatic, where the grammatical forms are missing in their speech. So the relationship between the concept and the language of the brain. So first, let's talk about broadcast area. Broca's area, also known as the anterior speech cortex, is located in the left hemisphere of the brain and is associated with speech production and articulation. Broca's area is crucially involved in the generation and production of speech language, where the individual has problem in answering but no problem in understanding. While for aphasia, it is an impairment of language function due to localized brain damage that leads to difficulty in understanding and producing linguistic forms. The common cause of aphasia is stroke, where they have a pressure on the blood vessel, and a traumatic head injuries, often caused from a violence or an accident. Individuals with this condition often has interrelated language disorders, which is by having difficulties in understanding can lead to difficulties in production. Broca's aphasia supports the localization theory, which suggests specific brain regions are specialized for different language functions. So for my real world example, it's about a former US Congresswoman known as Gabrielle Giffords who survived a gunshot wound at the left side of her brain, which causes Broca's aphasia in 2011. Here are some clips of her going through broadcast aphasia.
Sit in that tune. Oh, girls, I wanna have fun.
So, after she recovered from the gunshot wound, she struggles to speak fluently. Although understanding a language remained pretty strong, forming words and sentences became extremely difficult as it damages the left hemisphere of her brain. During her recovery, she always had a long pause and lots of hesitation during her speech. She also faces a lot of difficulty in articulating single words. Over time, with intense speech therapy, she regained a lot of her communication ability, but her speech is still slower but more effortful compared to before. During one of her speech therapy sessions, she once said, "Words once come easily. Today, I struggle to speak, but I have not lost my voice." The meaning of this quote shows that people who suffer from broadcast aphasia often know what they want to say, but they struggle to physically produce the words.
So now, I'm going to talk about Wernicke's aphasia. Wernicke's aphasia, also known as receptive aphasia, is a language condition that causes auditory comprehension issues. This condition mostly affects the ability to comprehend words and sentences, whether they are written, spoken, or displayed in other ways. According to National Aphasia Association 2023, people experiencing this disease can speak quite well, with proper grammar, yet their communication may lack meaning. Anomia is a related condition in which people have difficulty to find the right word to answer questions, so they would use made-up words or words that sounded similar yet inaccurate. Individuals with Wernicke's aphasia may not be aware of their language errors or how their speech is perceived by others. The relationship between language and the brain and Wernicke's aphasia is based on the way that particular parts of the brain are in charge with language processes. Our ability to understand and produce language is influenced by several parts of the brain. For example, Wernicke's aphasia, it involves Wernicke's area. Wernicke's area is located in the left hemisphere near the auditory cortex, which is responsible for helping us to understand spoken language. Language is processed through a network that includes Broca's area, Wernicke's area, and arcuate fasciculus, which links the two. These areas are really important for comprehension and production, so any damage of this network may disrupt communication. When it is harmed, individual speech may lack meaning, despite being able to speak with fluency, causing people to struggle to understand them. So, Wernicke's aphasia highlights the close relationship between language and brain anatomy by demonstrating how injury to a single brain part can result to a significant language impairments. This video shows a presentation made by a stroke survivor with Wernicke's aphasia named Byron Peterson.
We eat foods, we eat paper, we drive other people, and reads other books, and draws other words, and driven homes, and driven other games, other people, and like a beer.
This condition has affected his brain, particularly in Wernicke's area, that affects language comprehension and word selection. We can see that he is trying to present a specific slide that shows some clear and informative sentences. As we can observe, he can speak fluently, but lack logical connection to the context. The mismatch demonstrates how people with this disorder can speak with fluency and with accurate grammar. Yet, what he is saying is meaningless, unclear, and confusing. He may seem confident in what he is saying, but he is actually having difficulty to understand his own words. As a result, Byron is unable to match his spoken message to the visual content because he uses some unrelated words, making it hard for people to understand him. This example clearly demonstrates how Wernicke's aphasia impacts both understanding and meaningful communication.
According to George 2020, the study of language and addition, conduction aphasia is a type of language disorder caused by damage to the arcuate fasciculus, the part of the brain that connects Broca's area and Wernicke's area. People with conduction aphasia have fluent speech and good understanding of language, but they have difficulty repeating words and phrases, especially when the sentences are long or complex. According to From King Victoria, Roman Roberts and Hamsnina 2018, an introduction to language, conduction aphasia shows the strong connection between language ability and specific areas of brain. It occurs when there is damage to the arcuate fasciculus, a bundle of nerve fibers that links Broca's area speech production and Wernicke's area language comprehension. This damage disrupts the flow of information between understanding and speaking, especially in the ability to repeat spoken words, even though the person can still speak fluently and understand language. This relationship supports the idea that different parts of the brain are responsible for different language functions, and effective communication depends on how these parts work together. According to the example, Conduction Aphasia 1, 2014, July 9, the patient is asked to count from 1 to 10. Although she understands the instruction, her response is disturbed and shows typical signs of conduction aphasia. The patient says,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, boy to Gabriel people.
She begins correctly with the numbers but skips 6 and 8, then move to unrelated or made-up words like bone, cabaret, and pepper. This shows a breakdown sequencing and word retrieval common in conduction aphasia. This illustrates conduction aphasia because she understands what is being asked, but her speech is fluent, not broken or halting. She has difficulty with repetition and sequencing, as seen when she lost track after 5. She creates neologism, made-up words like gabbers, and shows self-awareness of the errors. These figures are consistent with the match to arcuate fasciculus, which connects with the brain language comprehension and production areas.
Hi everyone, today I'll be sharing about bilingualism under the theme of language and the brain. So bilingualism is when someone can speak and understand two different languages. Some people grow up using both languages since their childhood, and others learn the second language later in life. According to Britannica, bilingualism is not just a communication skill, it also shapes how the brain works. It trains the brain to be more focused, more flexible, and better at multitasking. This connects deeply to the theme language and the brain. When a person uses two different languages, several areas in the brain become more active. For example, the prefrontal cortex helps with attention and switching between tasks. Broadcast area controls how we produce speech, while Linux areas help us to understand language. According to Nature scientific reports published in 2023, bilingual speakers have better cognitive flexibility. This means their brains can adjust quickly when switching between different languages and ideas. So overall, bilingualism strengthens the brain and keeps it sharp. For my real-world example, I chose a video on YouTube titled "Shocking People by Flawlessly Switching Languages Back and Forth" by Oriental Pearl. She is a multilingual YouTuber based in Japan. She is also originally from the US, United States, but she speaks Mandarin Chinese, Japanese, and English fluently. In this video, she walks through Cook Chinatown and talks to different people. When she meets Chinese vendor, she naturally speaks Mandarin. Then as she talks to the local Japanese people, she quickly switches to fluent to Japanese, using the right polite expressions. When she's approached by English speakers, she also responds swiftly in English. Then the people around her are often surprised and amazed how easily she changes languages. This shows how her brain is constantly managing different languages systems at once. According to Dr. Varika Marian in her TEDx talk, bilingual people have stronger attention, control, and memory. Their brains are good at focusing on the right language and blocking out the others when needed. In Pong's case, her ability to read social cues and respond instantly in the right language proves how bilingualism supports brain function, especially multitasking, attention, and memory. Thank you.